This is the brief on Katie Ginella's potential return to the Real Housewives of Orange County. So, Katie Ginella's future on the show. It's really kind of up in the air, you know? Especially as they're gearing up for that big season 20 after all the drama and cast issues she had. Okay, first up, remember that whole explosive storyline in season 19? Katie basically set things on fire, right? She made these huge accusations against Gretchen Rossi, alleging something happened with Tamra Judge way back in season 4. But then, whoops, she failed a lie detector test about it. So that kind of left her on the outs with pretty much everyone except Tamra. Things apparently got so tense that Bravo actually had to pull her from filming for a bit because the others just wouldn't film with her. But, okay, second, even with all that baggage, there's this idea floating around for how she could come back for season 20. It kind of hinges on Bravo bringing back Vicki Gunvalson, you know, the OG of the OC. Apparently, Katie and Vicki get along, and Tamra's pushing for Vicki's return too. This scenario might also mean adding one of Katie's own friends to the cast, you know, shake things up. And it probably means Heather Dubrow would stick around too, partly because, let's face it, Katie's got this huge, loud fan base online, and Bravo knows that. Well, the other option is pretty straightforward. Bravo just decides to cut her loose. Fired. But, you know, that creates another problem, because then the rest of the cast needs a new focus. Maybe they just turn on each other again after uniting against Katie. We really won't know for sure what's going to happen with season 20 until after that reunion gets filmed. That's going to be the big decider, it seems.
Next, we're going to talk about Danielle Cabral's latest scoop on what's happening with Real Housewives of New Jersey. So, you know, Bravo kind of put the brakes on the show after that pretty divisive season 14, right? Well, Danielle Cabral is spilling some tea now about what's going on behind the scenes. We're talking test filming, maybe some new people joining, and yeah, whether she's coming back herself. To deal with, you know, the drama from last season, Bravo's definitely been busy. Apparently, some of the vets like Margaret Josephs, Dolores Catania, and Melissa Gorga already did some test filming, kind of like auditions with potential newbies last month. Danielle wasn't there, but she's all for it. Even recommended some friends. She thinks it's a needed fresh start to really get it right this time. Second, Danielle sounds really optimistic about the show's future. She's basically promising fans will not be disappointed and says Jersey will deliver. Sounds like she's hoping for a return to the good old days, you know? She also thinks the new season might happen a lot faster than what you guys think, and she seems pretty excited about these potential new cool girls joining the mix. And finally, Danielle kind of hinted she might be back, but maybe in a different way. She's playing it coy, saying we'll see, but shared that if she returns, she'll be a different housewife. No more being a deer in headlights, apparently. She's talking about a totally different dynamic now because she's built stronger friendships off camera with some of the ladies. So look, if Danielle's right about all this, get ready for a whole new RHONJ, and maybe sooner than we thought.
Okay, next up, let's talk about Jax Taylor. Specifically, his recent, pretty open revelations about addiction and why he decided to leave the show The Valley. Jax shared something quite revealing about his addiction. He said he didn't actually like the taste or feel of alcohol and cocaine. Nope, he used them purely to cope, to avoid dealing with stuff like his marriage problems, personal trauma, and even thoughts about his father. Second, even though he's called this past year the roughest year of my life, and think about it, public split from Brittany Cartwright, figuring out co-parenting their son Cruz, plus a bipolar diagnosis, Jax has actually stayed sober for over 200 days. He says he hasn't thought about relapsing. Though, interesting side note, Brittany has said publicly his personality hasn't really changed. And finally, there's his exit from the Valley. Jax confirmed back in July he wouldn't be returning. He told Us Weekly it was because of this incredibly challenging year and needing to focus on his sobriety, his mental health, and co-parenting Cruz with Brittany. He stressed, you know, that this move is crucial for him to become the best version of himself. So yeah, Jax Taylor's recent disclosures really demonstrate a tough personal journey toward recovery and self-improvement, all happening out in the open.
All right, next up, we're going to talk about the recent drama. You know, the stuff with Joe De La Rosa, Jennifer Pedranti, and Gretchen Rossi from The Real Housewives of Orange County. So this whole thing really illuminates this public social media storm, okay? Where Joe De La Rosa, original RHOC cast, remember, she's pushing back against claims from current housewife Jennifer Pedranti and former castmate Gretchen Rossi. It's stirring up old feuds and clarifying those tangled RHOC relationships. First, Joe De La Rosa seemed pretty surprised by Jennifer Pedranti's public "Who's Joe?" line on the RHOC. After show, Joe clarified, hey, they did meet at Jenn's engagement party last year, texted about lunch, plus Joe worked for Jenn's fiance, Ryan Boyajian. Now, Jennifer publicly acknowledged meeting once and the texts, but kind of questioned Joe using TikTok instead of a private call, suggesting maybe Joe's trying to get back on the show. Second, Joe went into her, long and messy journey with Gretchen Rossi. She directly challenged Gretchen, saying they were never friends and calling Joe desperate for an RHOC return. Joe listed examples, like Gretchen being in her music video, double dates, events, Joe supporting Gretchen during that legal drama with her ex, Jay Photoglue. Joe also clarified her group chat was for fire donations, and yes, she spoke to a producer, she was an OG cast member. Finally, Joe revealed an unaired blowout fight at Heather Dubrow's party during season 19 filming. Slade Smiley, Gretchen's fiance, Joe's ex, intervened, and Gretchen apparently brought Jennifer into it. Joe stated she was not down with the whole gang up, and then, addressing Gretchen calling her Slade's ex, Joe suggested maybe Gretchen's husband could just be called Joe's ex. This public back and forth really brings to life the intricate and often very public dynamics between RHOC stars, past and present. Okay, next we're going to talk about Charlie Sheen and, his pretty open discussions lately about his relationship with his daughter, Sami Sheen. So Charlie's really putting it out there, right? He's addressing this strained relationship he has with Sami, who's 21 now. This is all happening as his new documentary, aka Charlie Sheen, and his memoir, The Book of Sheen, are coming out. It kind of gives us a raw look at how tough reconciling can be when you're a famous family living under that spotlight. First off, Charlie sounds hopeful, like he really wants to fix things. He actually told People magazine he believes they'll, quote, fix it. And then on Good Morning America, he doubled down, saying he has absolute faith their bond is too valuable for this rift to last forever. Though interestingly, he also admitted he doesn't really know what I did. But then second, you've got Sami and her mom, Denise Richards, offering, a different side. Sami actually said on TikTok she hadn't spoken to my dad in a year. And on her mom's show, Denise Richards and Her Wild Things, Sami laid it out. Communication comes in big chunks. Her childhood years were pretty bad. Then things were okay for a couple years. And now it's just like, okay. Denise is backing Sami up, pointing out Charlie's relationships with all his kids haven't always been smooth sailing, and she hopes he sees that so he doesn't end up missing out. So yeah, these different viewpoints really illuminate the tough road of family reconciliation, especially when it's playing out so publicly.
Next, we are going to talk about Summer House alum Paige DeSorbo's relationship status and, her rumored beau, Joe D'Amelio. So let's unpack the visual evidence and those insider insights, okay? Because they really illuminate how this quiet romance seems to be blossoming. First, those recent public sightings? They definitely clarify their connection, like they were just spotted together at a friend's wedding over in Tuscany, right? September 7th. It's a Bravo World actually shared photos on Instagram. You could see them sitting together, roses, candles, the whole thing. And that was, less than 2 months after they were caught holding hands during Paige's family trip to Capri. Paige even reshared a wedding photo herself on Instagram stories. Kind of adds to the whole public picture, right? Second, this romance, it has a bit of a timeline. And remember, she denied things at first. They were first linked way back in January, seen at a Philadelphia Eagles game. And that was right around when her split from Southern Charm's Craig Conover was confirmed. So even though they were seen out a few times earlier this year, Paige kept saying she was single, pretty quiet about it for months. Finally, insiders are saying they've been quietly dating for a while now and that things are going really well. Apparently, Paige is in a totally different headspace. And Joe? He's described as calm, grounded, and much more low-key, which sounds like exactly what Paige needed, yeah? He's even met her family, and they apparently really like him. Friends are noticing a different side of Paige, which clearly demonstrates she's happy. And that lines up perfectly with her leaving Summer House back in June. Yeah, this glimpse into Paige DeSorbo's new chapter certainly depicts a different kind of happiness for her.
Next, we are going to talk about Alexia Umansky's wedding to Jake Zingerman. Now, this was a really romantic event out in Los Angeles. It was all about Kyle Richards' daughter marrying her childhood sweetheart. And yeah, there were about 250 guests, including a bunch of familiar faces from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, or RHOBH. Okay, so first up, the wedding itself. Alexia Umansky and Jake Zingerman got married Saturday in LA. They went with this cool, romantic midnight garden theme. Alexia apparently wanted it to feel like something out of a fantasy book, very family-oriented, but also kind of moody with dark jewel tones and sparkles. And like I said, it was practically an RHOBH reunion. Lisa Rinna was there, Erica Jane, even Dorit Kemsley's estranged husband, Paul P.K. Kemsley. Quite the crowd. Second, let's talk family and tradition, because that was huge here. Kyle Richards, obviously a big name in Beverly Hills, was super involved in the planning. Mauricio Umansky offered lots of support too. They also honored Jewish traditions, like having a Shabbat blessing that's a traditional Friday evening observance. And get this, both parents walked Alexia down the aisle. Her rose bouquet and even her light pink nail polish. That actually evokes Kyle's own wedding back in '96. Her sisters were right there too, helping with her stunning bridal attire from designer Danielle Frankel. And finally, their story is pretty sweet. Alexia and Jake, they were best friends for years before they started dating back in 2019. They just got engaged this year, 2024. For their first dance, they picked Lola Marsha's Something Stupid, which apparently depicted their initial shyness about admitting feelings. Alexia even said she bawled her eyes out when she first told Jake she loved him. Cute, right? The reception featured varied cuisine and this really unique candlelit wedding cake. They're excited about having kids, but planning to wait maybe about a year or so after getting married. From a childhood friendship to a midnight garden-themed wedding and plans for a family, Alexia and Jake's union was a deeply personal and star-studded celebration.